Let's get into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast, episode 647. We got Joe Rogan. We got the gentleman from a podcast called Trigonometry. And we're talking about Canada again. Canada does have a good track record. I mean, a lot of people are like, man, nothing's going on with Canada. It's fine. People who are saying there's freedom of speech problems and this and that, they don't know what they're talking about. But today, what Joe Rogan and those gentlemen are talking about is this. Canada, something's going on. Something's going on here. You're reading that right. I'm not making it up. I didn't write this headline. This is real. This is really what they did. They honored a gentleman, if I could use that word loosely, a person, a very old person who fought in World War II. And he wasn't on the side of the good guys. Let's just say that. Not only did they honor him, they gave him a standing ovation. They said nice words about him. It was absolutely crazy. I'm going to be showing you the Joe Rogan clip, but first I just want to give you the context. Now, this is what's happened. Just clear cut. That's what happened. But now I'm actually going to show you some video footage of how this actually went down. So this veteran was invited to Canadian Parliament and he was honored. Let's play that first clip.
We have here in the chamber today Ukrainian Canadian world veteran from the Second World War who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98. His name is Yaroslav Hunka. And I was going to say he's in the gallery, but I think you beat me to that. But I'm very proud to say that he is from North Bay and from my riding of Nipissing-Temiskaming. He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service. Thank you.
So that was that. Thanking him for his service. What's going on? Everybody applauded. The wild thing is about that, there's definitely Jewish people in that room. There is 100%. There are members of the parliament who are Jewish. So just a wild thing to have happen. I'm going to show you another clip here. This is how, some more words that he said about the gentleman. More applause.
He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service. Thank you.
That was his face. Look at his face here. He's just like, oh my gosh, do they know? Do they know? Are they okay with this? They must be okay with this. They got Zelensky here. They got that Trudeau fella here. They must be okay with me. That's exactly what's going through his head right now. Now, I'm just going to play another part. This gentleman who was speaking, who was honoring him, apparently he was the one that sought him out, that invited him. So then he ended up apologizing. He was very upset.
I want to apologize for what happened and really tell you that the intention was not to embarrass this house. My sincere apologies to the house, to each and every one of you who are in the house today, and to all Canadians for having been put through this.
He's just like, I just figured, I mean, we have Castro's son here. I figured it would be okay. I just didn't think it'd be a problem. Now we have Justin Trudeau giving his comments on it, and he's even crazier with his comments. All right, he doesn't say anything really that bad, but where he tries to shift the conversation from their mistake, because it's all their mistakes. Someone should have looked into this guy. Someone could have Googled. Someone could have figured it out. I mean, when you hear World War II and you hear against the Russians, that should kind of click a little light switch in your head, shouldn't it? All right, Justin Trudeau, here you go.
The Speaker has acknowledged his mistake and has apologized. But this is something that is deeply embarrassing to the Parliament of Canada and, by extension, to all Canadians. I think particularly of Jewish MPs and all members of the Jewish community across the country who are commemorating Yom Kippur today. I think it's going to be really important that all of us push back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation, and continue our steadfast and unequivocal support for Ukraine, as we did last week with announcing further measures to stand with Ukraine in...
What? What's he talking about? What'd he say? Russian disinformation? What does he mean? What is he talking about? He said it's Russian. Is he saying that this whole thing is Russian propaganda? What?
Back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation, and continue our steadfast and...
Man, this guy, he's just out of sorts. I'm going to go to the Joe Rogan clip, but that's what ended up happening. Just to give you the complete context of what they're talking about when they're talking about it. They honored a man who they should not have honored. And you know what? That's what you get. That's what you get. That's what you get when you want a virtue signal. That's what virtue signaling gets you. You're all caught up in Russia, and that's what it gets you. All you're focusing on is anything that's against Russia. You already had Zelensky there. You were good. You didn't need anybody else there. You could have said, hey, we support you. We're going to send you some more money. Even though there's people starving in our country and we need the money, we're going to give it to you guys anyway. You could have just said that, but you had to go a step further. That's how virtue signaling goes. You always have to keep going a step and a step and a step further. And that's what happens. You end up honoring that guy. Good job. Just got to bring you to the store real quick. This is the Sold Not For Sale shirt. Get yours now. There's a little close-up of what you can get in your arsenal of clothing. Public Enemy #1 as well. Look at that face. Jeez. Guy's a real live villain. And we have the We the People shirt, where that gentleman is getting a middle finger because he's telling us we will own nothing and be happy by 2030. I'd really like to see how that plays out. I kind of don't want to see how that plays out. All of that's available at IamCoachColin.com. And if you want 10% off, all you got to do is put in the discount code IamCoachColin, all capital letters, all one word. 1 L in the name Colin gets you 10% off. And if you've done that with us already, we really do appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get into it.
What was his most recent apology? Because they accidentally awarded a Nazi?
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
I think Zelensky was visiting the Canadian Parliament, and they got some guy who was a Ukrainian, inverted commas, war veteran. Turned out he fought for the bad guys in that one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't think like Zelensky or I don't know.
Probably didn't know.
Yeah, he didn't know. But so imagine you're sitting in Parliament and everyone's like, "Hey, let's do stand up and give a round of applause for this war veteran." You're like, and then it turns out you're applauding a Nazi.
How old is this dude?
Old. Like,
He
old.
probably doesn't even know. I'm not a good guy. I'm not a fucking good guy. Maybe he's like tricked himself that he wasn't a Nazi.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah. I mean, how do you, if you're a sane person, how do you deal with that fact that you committed all of these heinous crimes?
Yeah, if you're living in that time, do you think it's just everyone's doing it and you just get sucked into the cult and you're scared or you believe it? Is it that easy for human beings to other people? Is it because it was a different time and people just didn't have as much exposure to knowledge as they do today, and that wouldn't be as possible today? I hate to think that that's a possible, because there's always been times in history where people committed genocide.
Yeah.
There's always been times in history where people have decided that this other group, and oftentimes other group that looks exactly like they do, right? Those are the bad people, for whether it's because of religion or a line they drew on the dirt. They've decided that those people are worth exterminating. And those stories are fucking horrific. And that the Nazi Germany one is just the latest one. It's just the one that we call upon But, just think about what the Mongols did. That's in 1200. Think about what they did. They just sacked entire cities, just killed everybody, piled them up in big fucking stacks, lit everything on fire, took all the women, and then just left town. And they did that all over Europe, all over Asia. They did it all. They've ran everything. They killed something in the neighborhood of 10% of the world's population was murdered during Genghis Khan's era. So much so that the carbon footprint of human beings on Earth got lower.
He was progressive.
That's how many people he killed.
Yeah. There's a lot of historians in Russia who say that many of the reasons the way Russian people are the way they are, and there's a lot of trauma in society that's carrying on, is from that period. We have a lot of words in Russian for cruelty and all that sort of thing that come from that period.
Completely makes sense. I mean, just imagine. I mean, the horror of a gigantic army of men on horseback intent on murdering everyone in front of them, and that was consistent with the era. It was normal stuff. That was like, oh, the Mongols are here. We're fucked. That's a thing that human beings have always done for some strange reason. They've always done that. And the thing about today is that as much as we know about humans and much access technology we have, the interconnectivity that we have with each other, there's still war. And no one, if you had to put your money, if you were a gambler, on within 10 years, will there be no war on Earth? Fuck. What kind of odds am I getting? Yeah. Because for sure there's going to be something popping off somewhere.
We're bands of chimps, man. Yep. That's what we are. We're bands of chimps. And chimps go to war. And so do we.
Man. What a wild little event that they decided to honor that man. It's so crazy. It's wild that every time Canadian news gets to America, it's either government overreach or they're honoring people who are just Nazis. Like, obviously that's only time it's ever happened, but it's just so crazy that it happened. And again, I will say again, that's what happens when you virtue signal. Good. That's what you get. Stop virtue signaling. It leads you down the wrong path. It clouds your vision, clouds your judgment, and makes you do things like what we just saw. Man, but when you think of, it's funny to think of Russia as the good guys in that situation. And now we are where we are, and they're the bad guys. They're the people that everyone's rooting against, and And I know it's been like that on and off, but during World War II, they really stepped up and stepped in, and nobody talks about how many of them passed away. And I'm glad that gentleman brought it up, because there is a lot of trauma from that throughout the whole country. No one really gives them credit for that. Kind of just push that aside, I don't know. It's very interesting. I think when you are capable of being a superpower, the other superpower or superpowers are going to push aside the good things you did and make sure that there's no way that you could ever step up and become that other superpower. But things are changing right now, and it's getting scary. And honestly, I got no problem with Russia. I got no problem with Russians, but I don't want to see that happen. I want to see America stay the ultimate superpower because of the way America is run. And I don't mean the deep state, and I don't mean the shadow government. I don't mean all that. I mean the Constitution and the freedom and the mixing of so many people, colors, nations, creeds all together. What do they call it? The Great Experiment. I think that should be the shining example throughout the world. And I think as the U.S. steps, or as other countries are, systematically trying to move them as the superpower, remove them as the superpower, I don't know, that threatens the whole world more than anybody would care to realize, I think. But yeah, that's Canada. Good for Canada, huh? Absolutely nuts. Just a bunch of Russian disinformation. I just need to add that at the end. Trudeau was right. This was all just this propaganda. Man, absolutely ridiculous. But again, they're so focused on everything that's anti-Russian, that they ended up honoring someone who was a bad guy in World War II. That should really show you something. That's signs that this is getting out of control. Now, when I say that, I don't mean other nations shouldn't be supporting Ukraine in what they're trying to do and trying to defend themselves. I'm not saying any of that, but it's getting out of control of the narrative that they're trying to paint to the people of North America. In Canada, in the US, I did a video just recently where there was a CNN anchor saying that, the money that's sent to Ukraine is actually money that's giving Americans jobs. It's actually good for America. Just ridiculous. The narrative is getting out of control. Way too out of control. And that's just the first signs of it. Believe me, something like this is going to happen again. 100%. Because when it comes to governments, when it comes to virtue signaling, governments, they are the top of the top. They have to virtue signal. They do it on such a high level, and it never works out. Because it either turns into something like that, where they're apologizing and trying to make up, it's propaganda, this, that. It's either something like that, or I don't even know what I was gonna say. I'm getting too out of sorts here. It annoys me so much when something like this happens. I wish that I could just get the straight facts. In fact, I told you guys I have a friend who is watching this conflict very closely to the point where he has 6 different sources of information. He's accessed Russian blogs. He sees reports every day of what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Russia. He really doesn't have a stake in the whole thing. He's not on either side. He just likes to see the actual numbers. And I don't know if I can get him on because he works in the government, so he can't really be seen doing this type of stuff or getting interest into this type of stuff. But if I can get the information and really boil it down and break it down for you guys and show it to you guys, I think I might start doing that, because this is something that we need to start seeing the straight up numbers about. It needs to stop being sensationalized. We just need to see what's going on. And it's like, America's what? Where are we at? $150 billion? Like, people need to know where their money's going. Oh, my nose, Jesus. People need to know where their money's going, So, anyways, guys, because it is your money. Remember that. They talk about it being in budgets and this and that, but that is your money. It is your money. Oh, gosh. I got to blow my nose, guys. Other than that, like the video if you haven't liked it already. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I am about to sneeze. I can't do it with my eyes open or else they'll pop out. And other than that, I am out.